The second Del Norte County regularly scheduled COVID-19 update meeting took place on Thursday evening. One of the questions from the public was directed to Crescent City Manager Eric Wier. The question was read by Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, Cindy Vosberg.
One of our past county supervisors has stated that the truck at Wier's Mortuary is empty. Is that true?
Well, Cindy, I think we all wish that were the case. And when the truck was coordinated through the County Office of Emergency Services, we were hoping that we would never have to use it. I know I talked with Joseph Sidorsky, the current owner of Wier's. We talk on a daily basis. They're still beyond capacity. The numbers that we saw with the death rate, that then goes to our mortuary, and it's really overwhelmed our resources. So unfortunately, no, that truck is needed. That truck is running, and that truck is currently in use. Talking to Mr. Sidorsky, he agrees. He would love for that truck not to be there and not to be in our parking lot. These are our our loved ones, our friends, right, our neighbors. But unfortunately, we need that as a community right now. We'll say one other thing that Mr. Sidorsky asked me to pass on from him, and that is just please, for everyone, consider getting vaccinated. We've all seen these numbers tonight, and especially when it comes to the deaths. 100% of those deaths, the statistics that we saw were unvaccinated people.
Sutter Coast CEO Mitch was part of the panel on Thursday evening, publicly confirming that some COVID patients had been transferred out of the hospital to other medical facilities and that some had died.
The hospital is keeping our community healthy and safe and treating those patients who are ill, and we are really only transferring out patients who require a higher level of care. And that has been the case through this entire second bout of COVID. We have had 11 patients die from COVID at Sutter Coast Hospital. That's not to say we haven't had a couple transferred out who have died subsequently, but the vast majority have stayed in our community and in our hospital, and all of them have been unvaccinated. We haven't had to transfer patients out because we don't have beds, so that's the good thing.
In response to a question from the public, CEO Mitch acknowledged that Sutter Coast had the ability to compile the number of patients who had been transferred to other medical facilities and make that information public.
We don't specifically track that. We certainly could. We can pull that data. We track transfers in general. We don't track it by diagnoses, but it's certainly data that we could pull. But again, it's not a significant number of COVID-positive patients that have been transferred out.
As has often been reported, Del Norte vaccination rates are very low. Hospital CEO Hanna wanted to talk about vaccination mandates for hospital workers and the consequences that those mandates might have on hospital staff and our community.
I know some people have been concerned about the vaccine mandate. I'm concerned about that too, and I will share with you, I was on a call 2 days ago with CEOs and healthcare executives from around the far reaches of Northern California, primarily rural hospitals. But all of us, speaking with our state assemblyman and senator, expressed our concerns about the implications of the state-mandated vaccine mandate, which goes into effect September 30th. While it I'm sure was well-intentioned, we all acknowledge that we have a lot of staff, particularly in rural communities, that have not been vaccinated. And frankly, if they hadn't started the vaccine by today, assuming that it's a 28-day gap between first and second dose, and if they're getting a 2-dose vaccine, they won't be able to work for us come September 30th. So we are very concerned as to whether we will have adequate staff. We are working closely with our managers to try to encourage staff to get the vaccine. There are waivers for staff who have either medical reasons to not take the vaccine or religious reasons, and we are certainly fielding those and open to reviewing those. But I do want the community to know that this is not something that Sutter imposed on our workforce. This is something that the state has imposed on employees throughout all hospitals, as well as psychiatric hospitals, as well as skilled nursing facilities. So we are really working diligently to ensure that we don't have lapse in coverage because of that.
As part of his report, Public Health Officer Dr. Aaron Stutz took an opportunity to tell Del-Norders that if they're supposed to be quarantining, that means not to go out shopping for groceries and or prescriptions.
I've had some feedback from the community, especially from pharmacies in the area, that there are patients who are known COVID positive patients who are still going to pharmacies to fill their prescriptions and things like that, engaging in normal shopping behavior, things like that. And this is just my plea to the community that if you are COVID positive, if you're a known COVID positive, or if you're on quarantine and you're suspected no exposure, you cannot be going outside your house into the community to do your shopping. You cannot go to the pharmacy to pick up your prescriptions. You have to please make other arrangements. Walmart and I'm sure many of the other pharmacies in the area have curbside pickup available if you absolutely need to go pick it up yourself. Or if you can't arrange a friend or a loved one to go pick up your prescriptions or your shopping for you. Many of the pharmacies will also ship to your home. You can have your prescription shipped to your house. So please, if you're COVID positive, or if you're in isolation, or if you're in quarantine and you're waiting for your test results, don't leave your house and go out and engage in your normal behavior. It's not acceptable in this environment. Please do not do that.
Superintendent of the Del-Norte Unified School District, Jeff Harris, was on hand. He gave his update about what was happening in our schools, what parents and students needed to do in order to help keep the schools open and our students safe.
Masks are required for everyone indoors unless they're working alone in their offices. So you should never see staff at a school site without a mask on. Masks are required outdoors for everyone if they're unable to physically distance. And I have to tell you, we've noticed as we've gone through classrooms, and again, we've been through almost every classroom in the district over the past 4 days, our students are doing a great job of masking appropriately. And if they're not, it only takes a simple reminder and the masks are back up. The kids are doing well. We're asking people, again, like Dr. Stutz was saying, please stay home if you are COVID positive or symptomatic. We've had people show up on our campus to pick up a child who was a positive case, and we've had to say, please leave the building, we'll bring a child out. And parents, we've had this other issue too, and that is, we've had families who think their child may have COVID or they're symptomatic, so they get them tested. That's wonderful. But what they've done is they've brought them to school until the test comes back. If you're having your child tested, please keep them at home until that test comes back, because what that has actually led to is the situation that we're in today.
Superintendent Harris gave a dramatic example of what could happen when even a small number of COVID-19 cases are discovered in a school.
As of today, the report that I received, we have several positive COVID cases of students within the schools. We've also had several cases of staff members. Now, my understanding right now is that there has been no reported spread within the schools. It's been caught early. Given the timeline, we believe that most of these cases were were contacts of other positive cases over the weekend or last week. But the result is, and this number is going to sound pretty astonishing, and again, remember, we only have 3 to 4 positive COVID students, but what this has meant is we're having to quarantine almost 300 students out of our district until the end of next week. So almost 1/10 of our students will be going home until the quarantine is over. If we have a positive student or staff member, they have to isolate per public health directive. And again, if you're positive, please stay home. Don't be out in the community.
Superintendent Harris talked about new public health guidance when it comes to high school athletics.
New guidance did come out yesterday afternoon regarding athletics. What we currently have is that mask guidance. Masks must be worn inside, and for large outdoor events, masks must be worn if you can't physically distance. I have to say, the other day we did ask our community to wear masks at the first football game of the season. I know everyone was really excited, but out of everybody we saw in the stands, there were probably not more than a couple of dozen masks that were being worn. People were mixing, people were at the snack bar. And I know our community cares about our kids. I know our community cares about our staff. And we just want to ask you, if we continue to have positive cases, if spectators are choosing not to mask, we may be required to limit attendance at games either by CIF, the league, or by public health. We don't want that. And so we want you there. We want you to support our youth. We want you to support our staff. And there are just a couple of rules, and the number one is mask up.
According to the Chamber's Cindy Vosberg, there will be at least one more Del Norte COVID-19 update. That one will take place next Thursday evening at 6 p.m. For KFUG Community News, I'm Mike Thornton.